Part 1. Long before we had a tribe, we had a group of Indians that occupied this land that actually occupied to the sense that we are of this land, we are of this earth, we are of the elements, and with that man is created from the dirt and the reeds. And in our history, our brief history, we come from the earth, and we migrated throughout the canyons and down south on the river to live in 1/4, a little over 5 million acres of this land. And as such, the people have always protected it. We've taken care of it. It's taken care of us. Through scarcity, we learned how to subside from its plants, from the animals, and from the springs that were here in this land. Also, we are also able to share with the newcomers based on our philosophy of helping, feeding, clothing, and sheltering. And more recently, after the Spaniards explored this territory, and after the Americans migrated to our land, we allowed them to occupy in spaces and share what we have so that they too don't get hungry. They too don't get poor. But we shared. And then the idea of capitalism, the idea of ownership through Western expansion in early American history, whereby we lost our best hunting grounds. We lost our best lands. We lost the cohesiveness between the Creator, the earth, and the people. So, as we evolved into the 1800s and learned to live, learned to work, to earn a fair dollar, we evolved to the sense that we started looking at ownership of things, animals, horses. But we never owned the land. We've always shared the land. And as we move along in our historical development of Hualapai, there was a point in time where, in the 1860s, whereby our chiefs realized that the non-natives are beginning to populate and occupy our lands. And after the Civil War, the soldiers would come here and start to pillage, start to take our things, to the extent where they rounded us up and took us off of our lands that we're supposed to protect. Took us away from our substance. And so with that, we were forced to march down to La Paz, down by Yuma. Hot country, no mountains, no trees. It's equivalent of taking a seaman onto land.
I can see that.
It's equivalent of putting someone where they're not used to that environment. So the old ones decided this is not our land. This isn't our place. And we decided to come back home here to where we were allowed to take care of the land. And we looked at that land and we felt that we're from here. We don't belong down there. Those are our relatives' areas. So with that, after a few more years of secession with the United States government in 1883, we became a reservation, where lands were set aside for us to use. And remember, the root word for reservation is reserve, set aside for later use. So we have to look at this reservation as a part of a land that's set aside for later use. It's been known where some of the governments have taken land from Indians and exchanged for other lands. We've had lands that were bought in Florida and sent back and traded with Indians. We have all of those things, and we're still here as a tribe. We've been here. We learned a lot through the Citizenship Act. We went through the Dawes allotment period. And then in 1934, we implemented the Howard Wheeler Act and became an Indian reorganized tribe and accepted our governments. And we're given this land, or apportioned this land so that we could use it, so that we could take care of it, and go back down to the basic philosophy of putting our land back to where it begins, where it belongs, to the people. Of course, along with government regulations comes tribal government regulations where we could create our own laws, create our own rules with limited authorities, as long as the feds continue to help us.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when we started getting things for free, we got used to that. When the government started giving people lands for free, they got used to it. When the government started looking at the lands and saying, okay, this is Indian, this is white, this is railroad, this is Indian, this is... We have big checkerboards there, sectional areas. And we have to learn to live amongst each other to protect this land. Years ago, in the 90s, we talked about water rights. We talked about water that is going to be shared with California. We talked about energy from the four corners that's going to be shared with California. But what did I realize? I realized that if they were buying energy from us and it's going to California, they were going to send it up the grid to Oregon and sell it to them.